Okay.
Nick muted. Say hello.
Hello. It seems to be working. Okay.
Nick, can you
Good,
mute
good.
Ken?
Uh,
Yeah.
Testing. 1, 2.
Can you hear me with this microphone? Yeah. I'm not asking if you want to hear me. I'm asking if you if you can hear me. We're
He's working at Trader Joe's.
Well, those are both good addresses.
Yeah. He wants
You think we ought to sit down?
You think we ought to sit down and start with?
Not
unless we get around and do it.
That's too bad. Oh, I should have. Maybe I can borrow that one.
Sure. Oh, yes.
I assume you'd be able to. Okay, Rob, look.
I even got them numbered.
Ready?
Are we on?
Yep. Let's get underway. Yeah. Welcome to the annual governance conference for governance and for the residents of Horizon House. And this year, for the first time, we also welcome depositors for the new West Tower. So a number of them there this evening, so we're delighted to have you join us. Yes. Yeah, my name is Neil McReynolds, a member of the Governance Committee for Horizon House Board of Trustees and a 10-year resident. Our forum this evening is focused on how decisions are made at Horizon House, who makes them, and how residents can provide input. We have a unique system of governance compared with the other retirement communities throughout the nation, and a system that's worked well for us over the 6 decades of our existence. Like, what makes this place unique? We have both a Board of Trustees and a Residents' Council. This evening you'll learn how these two bodies are selected, their respective missions, and how they work together in governing the whole enterprise. Our speakers this evening are Bill Andersen and Ned Lange, who've had leadership roles in our Board of Trustees and the Residents' Council, as well as have experience in governance outside of Horizon House. Both are lawyers. Bill is a retired faculty member at the Law School of the University of Washington. Here at Horizon House, he has served as president of the Residents' Council and was on the Finance Committee for 10 years. Ned Lange has practiced law in downtown Seattle and here at Horizon House. He served on the Board of Trustees for 10 years and was chairman of the Governance Committee. He also served the Residents' Council and was vice president this past year. He has been a resident 17 years. If you have questions for Bill and Ned, they will respond after their presentations. So the first speaker will be Ned Lange.
Ned Lange.
Thank you.
I think he's got a
Thank you,
mic.
Neil. I'll use this microphone. Would it help if I stood up, or am I okay sitting down? If I can sit, I'm closer to my notes, so that it might be better for you in that respect. Back in 2012, the Board of Governors the Board of Trustees Governance Committee asked Bill and I to put on this governance forum, and we have done so now that this is our 8th edition. And it is a pleasure this year to welcome not only the new residents who haven't heard it, but also the depositors and future residents, and all of the residents who are so kind to come, whether it's because they've forgotten or they just like the program so well. I'm not certain.
They're here because we're so good looking.
I think that's well, there may be a few changes or updates, or they may have generated a few questions, which should not surprise me. Turn to the next slide. Basically, it just says this is an overview. That's what it is, and our governance being defined. This, wait, you skipped one. Next. There. What do we mean when we say governance? I think the slide does an excellent job of giving a good definition. Basically, it's a question of who makes the decision, how do we get them, and how do they get there, and who calls the shots around here. And as Neil mentioned, we are somewhat unusual in that we have two shot callers around here. We have two governing bodies. Next slide. The Board of Trustees of Horizon House. When we speak of Horizon House and the Board of Trustees, we're talking about the corporation that provides our room and board, basically. In addition, there is the Residence Council, which is the council. Now, next slide. These are both 501c3 corporations. They are separate corporations. 501c3 is lawyer talk. It's the section of the IRS code that defines a corporation that becomes eligible for charitable tax status. And being a 501c3 means deductions, gifts to those corporations are tax deductible on your federal income tax return. So be generous to Partners in Caring, to Horizon House, and the Employees Gift Fund for the Residence Council. Next slide, I'm going to talk about the Board of Trustees, and Bill's going to talk about the Residence Council. Let's go to the next slide. The Board of Trustees. The bylaws of Horizon House provide for a Board of Trustees between 10 and 15 members. The board sets the number, and it is currently 11 members. These are selected, one by the Residence Council. The president of the Residence Council is a full board member, has a vote, full-time member. The United Church of Christ conference minister appoints one of the members of the Board of Trustees. The others are elected by the Board of Trustees themselves. It's what many call a self-perpetuating board. Very, very common, not unusual at all, especially in non-resident, in non-profit type corporations. A little bit of history. Prior to 2018, all but the resident council president were selected or were elected by the Conference of the United Church of Christ. The UCC conference minister served on the board without a vote. The board members nominated the existing board nominated the board members to be elected, but they were all elected. Then that was referred to the conference, and they elected them. The conference requested a change. The election became rather a formality. They had never rejected a nominee that came from the Board of Trustees. So at their request, it was changed to the board to elect them. And we also eliminated from the board the conference minister of the UC and replaced him with him designating a trustee, and a trustee who has a full vote, a full member of the trustee. The UCC founded us, and the only power that they now have essentially over is a designated member of the Board of Trustees. The only other relationship that exists is that if Board of Horizon House dissolves, pays all of its debts, any assets that remain thereafter go to the UCC Church as our founders. And although we were founded by the UCC, Horizon House has always been open and welcoming to all faiths and persons. It has never limited its access. Back to the board. The selection process of the board, as I've identified through the board and its governance committee, is the group that works hard to identify and cultivate, interview them. They evaluate potential members. It usually starts by identifying some skills that the board believes the corporation needs on its board for the next term of the next trustees. Sometimes they are current predictable issues, sometimes not. But if they can also need persons that are dedicated to the mission and are willing to contribute to our success. As I pointed out there, the resident council president is a member of the UCC, and the other are elected by the board. Insofar as tenure, well, let's talk a little bit more about the how you find these people to for the board to be. Existing and former board members are probably the best source of identifying potential board members. Recommendations are always welcomed by the governance committee, from residents, from vendors, from citizens in the city, future residents who know somebody who might be, those are where they get the potential names. The board maintains a potential member list so that they can keep people who might well fit in the futures. We seek leadership experience, skills in a particular area, knowledge, especially if they've had some experience in nonprofit corporation governance. It is helpful. We hope they have, and won't nominate them if they don't have a commitment to our mission and cause. And the nominating committee, the governance committee, nominates them to the full board, and then the full board elects them. They serve a 3-year term, and they can serve a maximum of 3 full terms. If a person is selected to fill an unexpired term of a member, he can also serve that term plus the 3 full term. And a few years ago, they also put in another little narrow exception that if the board determines there are unusual circumstances, by a 2/3 vote, they can have a trustee serve for additional 2-year term, or an additional 2 years, I shouldn't say a term, but that's under exceptional circumstances, and I think I think they used it one. Resident members, up to 1/3 of the board's membership can be residents of Horizon House. This is unusual. Most are continuing care communities like us throughout the country may have a member, a resident on their board. It's coming, I think, a little more common that they have one. Often that one, though, serves without a vote. We are now at the maximum of, and in my experience, and I think in Neil's experience, I have no knowledge of ever not having the maximum number of residents on the Board of Trustees. With the resident council president counts as one of those, and now with an 11-man board, we're limited to 2 more, and that's George Counts and Marcia Alquist. Another interesting fact is that we have former board presidents who become current residents of Horizon House. Susan Jones, Neil, Jim Fitzgerald and Ann Brand are all residents who have been presidents of the Board of Trustees. And currently, Marcia Alquist is the new president of the Board of Trustees. Marcia and Ann are the only residents to serve as, to be elected and serve as president of the board while they are residents. Ann was the first resident to be the president of the trustees on the board. The resident council president is a representative of the residents on the Board of Trustees. Other residents who serve on the trustees technically are not there to be representatives of residents. They are there because they qualify, because of their qualifications, to be members of the board. They incidentally happen to be residents. And knowing our residents, it is a wonderful source of qualified residents, but they are not technically resident representatives on the board. The board's job, I don't know, we onto it, it's resident, okay, function, it's there, yep, okay. Establish the policies and procedures. They do the long-range planning. A new process is just being initiated. It was announced that starting a new strategic planning process. They establish the strategy for our continued success. They hire, they fire, they evaluate the CEO. And the CEO is the representative of runs the administration, but reports to the board and is answerable to the board. Turning to the next slide, there's this organizational chart of the board that's pretty simplistic and pretty self-serving. It doesn't answer it. It tells you a little bit about who the committees are. Next slide, the current membership of the board. In addition to the members that I have, the resident members of the board, I would point out that Harold Zeitz's parents are residents of Horizon House. So you may have another avenue for access to the Board of Trustees if necessary. Next slide. The board works through committees. The board committees can have non-board members as members of the committees. And here in this we have an illustration of the resident members of board committees. This adds diversity, it adds some experience and expertise to the committees, and also it can be a training ground or a testing ground, if you will, of potential new members to the Board of Trustees. Outside non-resident can serve on these boards if the boards appoints them, and it's been used as a testing and training ground for potential full members. And also, so there are non-board members and non-residents who serve on these committees. Now that pretty well sums up what I have to say about the Horizon House governance, and now I'm going to turn it over to Bill to talk about the Residents' Council.
Thanks, Ned. This is awkward not being able to see the screen up there, but if I'm talking about something that's not on the screen, would somebody...
No, I'll turn you over.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that works. As Ned said, the Residents' Council is a separate organization, a separate corporation. It's a 501c3 organization for tax purposes, and it is a separate unit in the Horizon House collection of governing bodies. It is, the members are there are 15 members, they serve 3-year terms, and they're not renewable terms. So that means every year and they're staggered terms, so every year we have to elect another 5, and in 3 years you turn over the whole group. They must be residents. They are not selected as the board members are by inquiries of other people and about degrees or business experience or any of the other sorts of things that would be critical for selecting a board member. But these are people who are selected by the other residents. And what happens is that sometime in the spring, early summer, all residents will get a notice that a nominating committee of the council is going to start selecting the 5 people who have to be elected that December or that fall to fill the shoes of the people whose terms will end in the end of December. So every resident then will have the question, do I want to run for the council? Do I want my good friend to run for the council? Do I not want one of my friends to run for the council? That sort of considerations and conversations take place. Nothing personal, you understand? I just needed a shoulder to touch. So it's really important for residents, and the residents in the room here who have not served on the council before need to think carefully about this. It's important that you think about the possibilities that you might serve in this role, and you will have a chance to nominate other residents. You will have a chance to nominate yourself. Many people do, and it's really an important job that everybody who wants to do this sort of thing should take on. It's really important. And what happens is then at the end of the summer, basically, the nominating committee will take all the recommendations they've gotten from all the other residents and try and find the 5 names on that list that best fit the vacancies that will occur when the terms of the 5 retiring members will expire in December. And sometimes, you know, it's not just a matter of who is the best person, but the question is who's the best fit, given the particular losses we'll have in December when 5 of these people leave. So it may be that someone has some special skill, they're leaving. We need to find somebody, for example, who's a CPA to be treasurer or something like that. There'll be some of that. But by and large, the nominating committee, I've been on a couple, I'm sure these people have too. You go through these lists, all fine people and all highly recommended by themselves or by other residents, and they sort out what do we really need in December when these 5 people whose terms end leave. And then they pick out 5. And then in October, there will be an election, and the council will present this slate of 5 people, and they will be accepted or rejected by the membership of the council. At that meeting, floor nominations are possible, and that has happened. Someone that was not recommended to the slate by the nominating committee, nevertheless, is nominated by someone from the floor at the meeting, and sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But that's standard practice here. The nominating committee does the initial sorting, comes up with a slate, and then if the slate is acceptable to the council, they are voted in. There's a council-wide, I think, paper ballot. Is that we're still using a paper
If there's
ballot?
a contest, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we're having all the problems with elections here that I understand some people have had. These seem to be fairly orderly, and I think but that's a really important part of the council, is that they are selected and elected by other members of the residents' community here, and I think that makes them a very responsive group, which is really kind of important. The council has 2 functions under its bylaws. One of them is to arrange for activities, and the other is to serve as a sort of communication link between residents as a group and management including both the executive and the board. So there is in the bylaws of the council this second function, not just managing activities, but serving as a communication link between the residents and management. I think that's a very important sort of thing, and we'll talk about that a little more. Anything else on that list?
No. Nope.
I think the I think that's basically the structure of the council. 15 members, 3-year non-renewable terms, elected by the community, and having these two functions of managing the activities in the place and also serving as this communication link between the residents and management on any issue of concern to the residents, the way the bylaws are stated. So the council can take that job. Now the next slide shows the organization of the council, and you'll see that there are 15 members there, a president, a vice president, 2 vice presidents actually, a treasurer, and then the rest of the council is, along with their job of debating and discussing council policies, they have, as this chart shows, they're called resource persons. And they are really, each council member will be assigned a series of committees that hopefully closely related committees, and so that there will be some council direct supervision of the committee operations. We'll talk about those committees in a minute. But I think I think we're not quite to that one yet. We're still back here. Okay. As you know, the residents know, and to-be residents who are in the room may know this already, but there are about 60 or 70 committees that handle all of the activities of Horizon House. Can I see the next slide, please? There's a current list of the committees, and this is a moving target. We just had it revised for this presentation tonight, and a lot of committee names had disappeared, and some other new ones that showed up. Some of them had changed names, some of them changed their jurisdiction a little bit, but that gives you a sense of the diversity and variety of activities that are managed by residents through this committee structure. So if you want to have a committee on some particular subject or some particular activity, you just form the committee, have a chair of the committee, and work out with the council what your jurisdiction is, what your range of activities is going to be, and then you become a committee. You wind up on on that list. And when I was chair of the president of the council a number of years ago, there's some of these committees, I say, they come and go, and somebody said, well, you have to have an annual report from all the committees. So I went down the list of committees, and there was a committee called the Putting Green Committee. Well, there's an activity that a lot of people like to have, and so I couldn't get a report because I asked the chair of the committee. He said we couldn't find it. So there used to be a putting green here. It's vanished, and the committee is out of existence. It will not appear on the list. My point is, this is a living document here. It changes every year anyway. So, but it gives you a sense, even as accurate as it is as of the moment, of the variety of activities that are handled by these committees. Now, and the next slide, I think, is, what's the next slide?
Oh, it's one that goes by stages?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, let me just look at this. I think we need to have a monitor up here so we can see it without turning around. But yeah, that's
Here, it's this one.
that's good. Okay, now we're okay.
Yeah.
The top line then talks about the policies that have to be dealt with in managing a place of this complexity and this size. And I just listed a couple of them there. There are many policies. Can't list them all, but one of them has to do with what's the right thing to do for current residents. And obviously, we all believe that the board ought to spend a lot of time worried about that. But they also have to worry about future residents, because this place can't just stand still. It has to take into account new tastes, new preferences, new situations that come along, and then so the future residents have to be thought about as in one cluster of policies. I was told when I got here that at one point, the thinking about future residents produced the feeling that you couldn't have king-size beds because of the interests or the tastes of the residents that might come next year. They don't like king-size beds. They like other kind of beds. So those kind of things you have to think about. You have to think about who wants an avocado-colored refrigerator? Well, we used to have one, 30 years ago. I don't think they're in now. The board has to consider future residents in a lot of ways. Then there are many policies, in fact, the staff that have to be considered. Apart from interests of residents, current and future, there's the question of what about the staff? What is their wage level? What is their recruitment process? What is their training process? What is their retention process? What about scholarships for staff children? And we got some programs of that kind around. So the staff is another cluster of policies that has to be thought about. Then there's a box here called goals, and if you look at the charters of these organizations and the bylaws, they will give you a lot of goals, and this is what we're after. And it has to do with seniors, it has to do with various kinds of obvious housing things, but in addition, there are other goals and values. Being a good neighbor, being respectable, and being in favor of appropriate policies and values in the way we manage things, all those are part of the goals and values that have to be thought about at the policy level. And then on the far right is one of the most critical ones, and that has to do with the fiscal soundness. Apart from what policy may be good for residents or future residents or staff, or might click some box on the list of things that your charter requires you to do, there is the question of, can you stay afloat financially? And I think we're right now in the process of starting a building project here that some members of you, you're more than welcome. Glad you could be here tonight. We'll be living in the new facility, and I think it's that kind of thinking ahead has been always a characteristic of Horizon House policies. The North Tower, which is in place now, went through a similar process 15 years ago where they said, yeah, we look at the future, we look at the markets, we look at construction costs, we look at demand for senior housing. We think we need to be bigger, so they built the North Tower. And that same process has gone through by the Strategic Planning Committee at the board level to decide that we have to have this new structure that's just begun over here on where the West Wing used to be. So that fiscal soundness is a terribly important part of the policies that have to be looked at. Now, if I could look at the next slide, I think what that suggests is that these policies at the basic level are decided by the board. They're not decided by anybody else. They're decided by the board. So it's the board that considers these basic policies. There are lots of other subsidiary policies that get worked into other decisions and activities along the way, but these basic policies are at the board level, and they are made by the board. One of the things the board does, in addition to making policies, of course, if I could see the next slide, is to hire a CEO, and through the CEO hire the staff. And so, and the next slide would show okay, now that's the basic pattern. The board selects the executive then and the staff provide facilities and run the operations for the benefit of the residents. Now that picture, as you see it on the screen now, is probably typical of organizations like, we call them CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities, around the country, and there are hundreds of them around the country. And this is the typical way they run. And so you have a board that selects the staff and the executives, and then they provide at the operational level for the facilities. And now usually, because there are a lot of activities that you have to conduct in one of these places, the executive will hire a staff person called an activities director, And that activities director may have staff and other support, but that's where all the activities come from. But if you look at the next slide, I think you'll see that that's not the way it works here. It is not a staff person who decides on all these activities. You saw that page of 30 or 60 or 70 committees. The activities are designed and funded and managed by the residents, which is a most unusual sort of arrangement. And I think it's really important to sort of get that in your mind as what makes this place different from a lot of other places. And it has lots of implications if you think about it. We had a guest come in the other day and was waiting in the lobby out here for us to come downstairs. And when we got down there, she said, gosh, everybody came up and introduced themselves to me. And when I told them I was here to see the Andersons, oh yeah, we know the Andersons, they do this, they do that. And she said, this is not like a hotel. Everybody seems to know everybody. And I think that's one of the reasons, because we all are working in these committees together. And you know, if you're involved in a committee on this and the other people there, they may live in other places on the campus, but you know them because you meet with them once a week or once a month, whatever it is, and you're working on new projects together and you're doing things together. And so it sort of enhances the integration of the people here. We all sort of know each other and work with each other, and that makes a difference in the feel or the flavor of this case. Now, that having been said, I need to repeat again what I said a minute ago about residents running for council membership. You should also be active in committee activities, because that's where the lifeblood of the life around here is. And so we hope every resident feels interested in finding some topic or some service or some activity that they like, they enjoy, and they're good at, and they work with other residents to produce. And it's that initiative that residents show in joining committees and working on committees that makes it possible to have this diverse and comprehensive set of activities. Now, the final point I want to make is that, like most organizational charts, the good stuff happens between the lines. And can I see the next slide, please? These are, and the next one as well, I guess. If you look at, and this is the last slide we have, if you look at this, it shows you that while, as we said, policies are decided by the board, not by anybody else, but look who's on the board. There are residents on the board, and there are many residents, many more than the 3 that are on the board. There are many of them who are active in board committees. And I was on the finance committee of the board for a couple of years, and we're the people, that was the time of when we went through the calculations, the mathematical calculations and the accounting analyses, which produced this new project over here. And so, I was a resident, there was another resident on the same committee, and so the residents were at the table when these policies were being formulated and discussed. And it's really an important part of this. So that red line that shows that there are residents on the board, in the board, with the board, participating as members of the board, and that work on board working committees, I think that is really an important feature of this particular place. There's another arrow here showing a red arrow going from the residents up to the executive staff. And the footnote says, because of the open meeting policy, the open door policy, and the many, many forums that are conducted by the executive to involve residents, to inform them about things, and also to get reactions from them about things so they can be modified and changed and made better. This is a distinctive quality of this place. Anybody can write the CEO and write her an email or a phone call, drop in and visit. And now Erica's not here today, as you may know. She's frozen in the East Coast. She was going to be here tonight, but she's stuck in New York. So she may be here tomorrow. I'm not sure. I hope that stuff thaws out. But it's convenient and easy for, and expected in a way, for issues that come up that need to be discussed and so on, for people to be able to write staff members, senior staff members, including the executive, or you can write the board if you want. And there is an open door policy. And then in addition, as I say, there are these frequent forums. We have small group forums on particular topics that residents are invited to come in with, to meet with staff members to work on various kinds of things. So it is, I think, a very interesting manner in which, while it may not show up in the organizational chart as a black line, residents are very much involved in the management and the definition and the operation of the policies that are ultimately decided by the board. And I think that's about all I can say, unless we have questions later on.
Well, hope we will have questions.
Yes, we will. Yes, now it's your turn. We'd really encourage questions from the audience here. A lot was covered tonight, so we'd love to have some hands list. Yes.
I'm a future resident, and I want to know if there's going to be any way for future residents to have any say in anything to do with the new tower,
With, I didn't know
the West Tower. Are the future residents of the West Tower going to have any input into anything about?
I think the answer is yes. They're going to be residents, and they'll be on
but
this.
before we move in, just for instance, I had dinner tonight here for the first time. I found the dining room incredibly dreary in the color scheme. Can we get some color into the new dining room? I have no idea where in what you've said, where any input could be provided.
There's not a line on my chart about future residents, but there's no reason why in your current situation you can't do what I would do, which is complain to or talk to the person who's in charge of that. They're redesigning the dining room for the new.
I have no idea who that is. Our only contact is with the sales department.
Start with Erica.
I think you could start with the CEO. Start with Erica, and she would place your thoughts where they would be most usefully put.
Another issue for the new tower is that they're going to allow dogs, and that's never been done here before. And does anybody here know what the needs are of the residents who are going to come in with dogs?
I think that's another good question for Erica. We have a policy about dogs here. We've had, before I got here, that there were no dogs. But now there are lots of dogs, but they're service dogs. Is that where they are? But that's a policy that needs to be discussed. And I think if you have questions, any resident or resident-to-be who has questions about that sort, I think send them to Erica, and she will be happy to answer them, or send them off to somebody who can.
Yes.
Now, good question. Thank you.
Bill? Bill, go ahead. Go ahead, Bill. You got it.
So I'm just curious, you didn't talk about the budget, like there must be a budget for the regular, the two different boards, and how is that created and how is it controlled? So just sort of curious about that. And I also really like avocado refrigerators, so if there are any out there,
You might be able to get
let me
one.
know.
I don't think we have a committee on avocado, but let's see. Do you want to talk about budgets at the board level?
But at the board annually does prepare a budget. It's prepared with the finance committee and starting with the staff, Christie and her staff, and the administrative leaders develop a budget that they propose to the Board of Trustees, which then adopts it or rejects it, modifies it as they see fit. That's the way the Board of Trustees. Pardon?
Do the residents get it from them, or do they get, how do the committees get funded?
Oh, that's another good issue. Do you want to talk about the committee's? That's the resident council side. Okay.
No, he doesn't know anything about that.
I,
I
do,
do.
I know a lot about it, but you
Right.
can tell him about how that. I'd love to talk about it.
When I described the function of the resident council as managing these activities, I said, I think I said, they design them, they operate them, and they fund them. Because the funding for all resident activities, almost all of them, comes from the proceeds of the Monday market, which is our internal store.
Flea market,
It's a flea market, I guess, yeah.
a high-class flea market.
But there's an amount of money that may be $100,000 a year, that revenues from that market that are used to fund all these committee activities. Yeah. I
Okay,
think
Bill
that's
in
right.
the middle section here, Bill.
Neil, next
Okay.
time.
Excuse me, Bill, this is Ronnie. I'm president of the Residents' Council, and I thought I might be able to give a little more in-depth explanation of how we fund all of the committees. And you're absolutely right that the Monday Market, which is a high-end thrift store, absolutely wonderful place, is the source of the money for operating the Residents' Council activities, with the exception that right now, because we have fewer residents, there is less money available from that fund because there are fewer people to buy things from the thrift store. And the trustees are helping us out with some supplementary funds. But we figure out how much income we're going to have for that year. Each of the committees submits a requested budget. It goes to the budget committee of the Residents' Council. We determine how much each of the committees needs to operate within the money that we have available. And then we tell each of the committees how much they have to spend for that fiscal year, which is the same as the calendar year. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Maid, you had your hand up down here? Yeah, there's another microphone. We're trying to move
Hold
from
it
the
like-
side to the other.
Just an add-on, can the committees fundraise for themselves?
No. Without approval of the resident council. And that's a pretty strong policy.
So who's up now? No.
Okay.
Neil, point someone.
Hi, is it on? Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Alex Buckley. I'm a future resident and super excited that we were included in this forum, so thank you for that. I did scan through all the committees and I didn't see the Monday Market as a committee. Is there a committee that helps with that? Or if you're interested, can you, who do you contact?
That's a very good question. Do we have somebody from the
I
market
can
here?
answer it again if that's okay. The Monday Market has two coordinators. They are basically responsible to the Residents' Council, and they have a lot of volunteers who help to run it. And if you would like to volunteer, even now, I think they would accept you to help as a volunteer. It's a lot of fun working there. People really want to do it.
Next section here, we haven't had Bill yet. Bill?
Yes, I'm also a future resident. My name's Holly Hill, and I'm very happy to be here. I also scanned the committees. I didn't see something having to do with community service or social justice or anything of that nature, and I'm wondering if there is any such activity at Horizon House.
There certainly is. That's a very good question. I guess I should preface my answer with this. You don't have to work through a committee to do something around here. You can get together with friends and do what you want to do. Is this micro? I can't control it, so. Would this be better? Okay. There are lots of activities that take place without being outside the committee structure. And so if you want to be part of the group that carries signs out here on 8th Avenue on Friday mornings, you can just join that. If you want to get together with a group that likes to sing or likes to get together with other people of similar religious views, I mean, there are a whole range of things that are handled outside of the committee structure. And and I should ask Ronnie Budge, our president, are there committees that deal with social issues as such. We have world affairs committees and public affairs committees and things that deal with those kinds of general questions, but I don't know that we have diversity, yeah.
Yeah, there's a diversity awareness committee. And as Bill has said, there are groups of residents who go out and hold Democracy Now! Signs and Black Lives Matter signs on the street corners here. But as was said, you do not need to be a committee of the Residents' Council to do these things. The only time you need to be a committee of the Residents' Council is if you want to be funded by the Residents' Council. And we're always open to new committees. I'm hoping some new residents want to form a bird watching committee.
I have been,
Yeah, down
Sally Wren is my name.
Yes.
I have been chair of the Diversity Committee for over 4 years. And we are out, we had 17 of us on the corner of Seneca and 9th Avenue here last week in the wind and cold. And we go out every Friday between 12 and 1. Our committee is open to visitors just to see what we do, and you can get the schedule from me or to join. So we
Can I
welcome
apologize a
people to the Diversity Committee.
Let's see, that just, it's
And
worth
now-
adding.
Now we have Black Lives Matter, now we have Ice Out, we have every sign that we want to. Sometimes we get people to join us, just from the street.
It's worth adding, too, that any organizations that any resident wants to connect with in their own life, in their own circles, they're free to do that. And we have many members who are, residents here who are members of all kinds of groups across the political spectrum and religious spectrum and artistic spectrum and so on. So you're not limited in any sense. But to do it with other members of the other residents, then some grouping is possible. And sometimes if you need money to do it, you might want to become a committee. But you're not limited to that at all.
I have a question over here.
Thanks. My name's Jay Carmio. I'm a future resident. My question is right along the line of what we've been talking about, which is if there is an interest group, let's say a book group or bird watching or any sort of informal interest group that is not a part of the committee structure, how do these people find each other here? Thank you.
That's a good question. Well, there are all kinds of communications devices in the building, signs, publications, notices of various sorts that are put up. So that's one of the ways. But it is not hard to find people with a similar interest,
Yeah.
with a notice in the mailroom even, and
Mailroom bulletin board.
bulletin boards. All kinds of ways to do that.
And the weekly alert, you can write an article for the weekly alert, and say contact you. And HH Connect, our website, has places for announcements and activities. So there's a wide variety of communication channels, and to improve it and keep it going, there's a communications committee. Of course, we have a committee for that too.
Go on the other side, and Jack. Jack.
My name is Lois Lungens, and I'm a current resident, but I wanted to respond to the future resident, the woman here in the red sweater, about how you learn about things. And I think we take it for granted when we're here that we can learn about things in all sorts of ways. You're almost overwhelmed with information. But for new residents, I think it's future residents, I think it's worth, as has been mentioned, talking to the CEO, Erica, to find out exactly how to learn the things that you want to learn. When it comes to the new tower, there are regular reports from the construction company and from the design firm about exactly what's going on there. So I would certainly encourage you to find out when those meetings are and to come. And when it comes to the current dining room, you may not know that in addition to the work on the new tower, the dining room and the bistro here in this section are being completely redesigned and the bistro expanded. So I think what you have noticed about them seeming somewhat outdated has certainly been observed by others, and that is being tended to. And I guess finally I would say you can ask any one of us who live here the kinds of questions that you have, and we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Bill, do you have anybody in this center section? Okay. Okay, May down the other side.
Yeah? There's one.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, good, okay.
Hi, I hope I'm not speaking over anybody. I'm Sue Wagner, a future resident, and I just want to thank you for the wonderful evening, for the invitation, and for the way that Horizon House has included us in things as we've gone along. I think it's been wonderful. The communication's been great, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Okay. Okay, Bill in the center section.
I'm Dorothy Hopper, and I've lived here 22 years, and it keeps changing and new things happening. It's a very dynamic place.
Well said, Dorothy. Okay. Now, side, Jack.
Are the minutes of the board or the residence council readily available to the residents?
Yes. They are posted in the library as soon as they are they're in the back of the library on the right-hand side as you go back. There is a residence council set of volumes and a trustees, board of trustees Horizon House set, and the minutes are posted regularly.
Okay, May down at that end.
There's one over here.
Okay, Bill?
Nope,
But there's one over there.
Oh, okay. Well, just I'm trying to move.
right there.
Try to move.
A simple question. You're almost doubling the size of the operation. How is that affecting the structure of the boards, the two boards?
Is the board going to change shape or size because of the new residents?
That's up to the board. They didn't change size when we became quite larger with the construction of the north tower. Quantity of service customers doesn't necessarily govern how large your board should be to make good decisions for all of them. I suspect that it'll stay between 10 and 15. You get a board much larger than that and you run into other problems, as our governance professor from the University of Washington can tell you.
I think it's probably true that if the size of the new population begins to cause council problems in terms of numbers, that there might be some adjustments
That may be in
to that size. I don't know, but that would require an amendment to the charter, the bylaws or something, but that'll be watched and thought about, I'm sure.
May, down your section.
Any more?
Okay. Bill? No, thank you. Okay. Any more in your section, Jack? Last chance. Okay. Well, with that, we'll wrap things up then.
Neil, I want to make
got
one.
you. Ned, sure.
I want to make one comment. I really appreciate the future residents' attendance and coming and your interest at this level. We hope and expect that interest level to continue to be present when you move in, because a resident-driven community requires residents' participation, and our activities and our governance all require you to be a part of it, and it's that participation that makes this a resident-driven community, that it makes it so much fun for all of us and such a wonderful and active place. So we welcome you. We're getting tired. There's some turnover. With some graduate or as someone said there,
Move on, move on.
As well.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, good.
We look forward to your
Yeah, good.
participation.
Oh, you can- Thank you.
Hey, right in an hour. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Announce all meetings in advance.
Any activity, considering